right, welcome back, you guys. I am going to tell you, all of you have a very safe holiday, and the reason why I'm saying that, it's Labor Day. It's big time, and you started early, I'm sure. I want to introduce my next guest, who has also been on with me before. I have John Pheubus, and he is a criminal defense attorney. That kind of encompasses a lot of different things. Welcome back to the show.
Glad to be back, Carol. Happy Friday. Thanks
Happy
for
Friday,
me.
and it's a great time to be coming on because a lot of people out there are thinking about where they want to have a drink.
Yes, absolutely.
What should they do that, let's say it's them, it could happen to anyone, or it's their son or daughter that gets in trouble, okay? What do people do today if that happens to them?
Well, and of course, let's say right off the bat, Uber, taxis, don't put yourself in that situation. But if you do get pulled over, here's kind of the basic rules of the road. Number one, unless you truly have only had 2 beers, don't tell the officer you've had just 2 beers and take tests. In Arizona, here's what you have to do. If you're pulled over, you need to provide the officer with your name, your insurance information, and your registration documentation, and that's it. The initial phase. You do not have to take any field sobriety tests. You do not have to blow into a portable breath tester here in Maricopa County. So if you're pulled over and you have been drinking, what you should do is give the officer your paperwork and then immediately ask to call an attorney. Tell the officer that you don't have anything to say. You invoke your right to remain silent and you'd like to call a lawyer. Now, of course, that's going to irritate the officer, and he's probably going to arrest you and take you to jail. But guess what? If you've been drinking, you're going to get arrested and taken to jail anyway. So the question you face is either are you going to give the officer a bunch of evidence that he can use to try to convict you, or are you going to give your lawyer the tools he or she needs to try to defend you and get you through this with a minimal amount of pain? Once you're under arrest, if you're taken to the police station, the officer may ask you to take a breath or a blood test back at the station. Now, that's the one that you are required to take, and if you do not take that one, then they can get a search warrant to draw your blood against your permission. So, generally, if you call me, first of all, of course, you need to call me or another attorney who does criminal DUI work and talk to that person. But normally, if you call me, I'm going to tell you, you need to submit to the blood alcohol or breath alcohol test. Don't make them get a warrant because they really will do it. That's kind of the lay of the land.
Okay. Here's the first thing that I think everybody should do. Take your phones and put his phone number in there,
yes,
because that's really important. It could happen to anyone. His phone number is 623-847-7117. So that's 623-847-7117. You can check out his website. It is DUIAZ.com. He's got lots of information there. But that's the first thing I want everybody to do, is put it in there, because it's good to have it there. And that could be for any time, because again, it could happen to anyone. And I know that you said that if you've had 2 drinks. First of all, if I had 2 drinks, I'm out the dump. I'm 2 sheets. I'm sorry. That's just the way I am. I'm not capable. Everybody's different. But I understand, though, here in Arizona, it's a 0 tolerance. So what does 0 tolerance really mean?
Great question, Carol. It's legal to drink and drive as long as you're over 21, but you cannot be impaired by it. When they say 0 tolerance, they're saying it is illegal in Arizona if you are impaired by alcohol, at least to the slightest degree, in terms of your ability to operate a car. The law says you've committed a DUI. It's not drunk driving that's illegal. It is impaired driving. And if you ever are charged with a DUI, God forbid, there will be 2 charges. One charge is being impaired. The other charge is going to be if you're over a .08 on your alcohol test, which most people, that's what they think of. To give you an idea, and people say, well, what is that? What does that mean, a .08? One standard drink, which is a 12-ounce can of regular beer, an ounce of 100 proof liquor, or 4 ounces of regular wine, will get, depending on your body weight and how much food you've got in your stomach and other variables, will contribute anywhere from about a .025 to a .040. So if you're a 110-pound female and you're drinking on an empty stomach, 2 light beers can get you to the legal limit. You know, if you're a 300-pound lineman for the Cardinals and you're eating a bunch of chicken wings, you can probably drink a heck of a lot before you get to the 08. But, you know, the safe rule that when people ask me and they say, well, is it okay to drink and drive? You can have a drink. You can have probably 2 drinks, but then you really do need to stop it at that point. And I think that's why people often say, I'll tell you 90% of the time when I get these police reports, everybody says they've had 2 beers. Dos cerveza, every single person. Because people know in their heart, in their sense, look, at 2 beers, that's about what you can drink and drive. And the other thing to know is the average person will burn off about 2/3 of a drink per hour. It's a common misconception. People think I'll burn off a whole drink every hour. But your liver does not burn off a whole drink per hour. You'll burn off about a .015. I don't want to get too technical, geeky here, but
that's interesting.
Yeah. So, you know, if you drink 2 beers, it's going to take you at least 3 hours to burn those 2 beers off. So just keep that in mind. If you're drinking 1 beer every hour, you're going to keep getting more and more buzzed because your liver can't burn it off that fast.
And some people definitely drink more than 1 beer an hour.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, if you're, you know, I love to have a drink once in a while.
Sure.
I shouldn't say that on the radio, probably.
No, you can. As long as you don't use some bad language, it's okay.
But, you know, the real thing that will get you in trouble is if you're drinking hard liquor and you're drinking martinis or Manhattans. You know, 1 Manhattan or 1 martini, if they're made at a place like, say, AZ88, may have 3 or 4 ounces of liquor in it. Well, you have, you know, 2 of those and you've had a 6-pack. And if you're eating a little appetizers and you have 2 martinis, you've just had 6 standard drinks. You know, you're going to be a .120, give or take, and guess what? Now you're in the crosshairs for DUI.
Right. And again, I want to make it very clear that DUIs can happen to anybody at any time. You can go out for lunch with the ladies and they have a little glass of wine, and if you accidentally, you know, maybe made a wide turn or what have you, and you got pulled over, if that cop wants to, they'll pop you.
Well, that's their job. Absolutely. Their job is not.
Their job is to make money for this state.
They don't get it right in their pocket, but their job is to take people off the road that they perceive to be a threat.
Well, here's what we've got, too. We're going to open up the lines, too, if anyone wants to call in and just tell a story or whatever it is that you want. If you need some help, we want to get you in touch with him. Again, I want to stress this. This is something that could happen to anyone, especially your son or daughter out there. This is a crazy weekend. Put the number in your phone. How long have you been doing this, John, now?
I have been practicing law for 22 years.
So 22 years. You need an experienced attorney. That's what it's all about, knowing somebody who's going to make sure that he can take those, whatever you get charged with, and make them even a little bit better for you or get you off, right?
Right. You got to have realistic expectations. You know, what I tell my clients is, look, 9 times out of 10, you're not just going to completely walk away from it. About 10% of the time, you're going to beat it, which means maybe you get a reckless driving or you get the DUI thrown out. In almost every case, I can improve it, you know, make it, you know, better than what it was walking into it and minimize the pain and the stress and the impact on your life. But, you know, the majority of the time, you're not just going to walk away from it.
Now, his number is, put it in your phone, 623-847-7117. If you don't have it, write it down. Go ahead and put it down somewhere and make sure you keep it. The website is DUIAZ.com. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk further a little bit about this. He is here live right now to talk to you, and if you want to call in, if you got a story, it doesn't matter, anything, and criminal can be traffic too.
Oh, yeah.
Traffic ticket.
I do all criminal defense, so you know, you could have anything from a fight with your husband or wife. You know, all traffic offenses, felonies, the whole shebang.
Also, I want to make it clear, we're going to come back and talk a little bit about water and DUI, because a lot of people are going to be out on their boats this weekend. I know it goes by fast, but we're going to do that. Now, our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. You can call in if you like. Again, 602-277-5369, or give him a call. His number is 623-847-7117. Okay, cool. Goes by fast, but it was cool. I love
We're
that.
halfway done
Why?
already.
I know, isn't it crazy? Why don't you want to do radio?
I just never said I
But you
didn't
have
want to do
a
radio.
great voice.
Oh, thank you.
You said it about Doc, and Doc doesn't compare to you.
Well, thank you.
You could have a radio show.
Really?
I'll talk to you about that.
Okay. Always amenable to new things.
Well, let me tell you. You can plunk it down and do a 13-week thing, or you can try mine and take baby steps. No different. Goes to the station no matter what. But you could have it. It could be. We could change it up. I love DUIAZ anyway.
You can do a lot of different things.
Yes, and what you should do is have, like I said to you before, those DUI survival guides, or we could call it criminal survivor guide, or whatever. You could have them for anything, and you should have it for.
Yeah, you're right. I absolutely need to get that done, and you had some great ideas. I'm just looking to see if anybody sent me any questions.
Go ahead. I don't know what questions. Are you talking about people's?
Yeah, I posted on Facebook.
Oh,
if anybody
okay.
has any questions,
Oh, okay.
let me know.
Cool.
A judge friend of mine asked, do you think the medical blood draw statute is constitutional? It's probably a little more into the weeds than we want to get into here.
I don't know. That's a little. That's different.
A little technical.
That is technical.
So, yeah, I would like to talk about that sometime, Carol. It'd be interesting.
I'll tell you about it right after the show, and then you can think about it, or whatever you want to do. But I think it would be very, very, very informative for them. It would be an informative show. You know what I mean? You can have people calling in. And
Yeah.
I mean,
So what do we hit on next?
I'm going to do the water,
Okay.
and I'm going to, real quickly,
Okay.
and then I want to get to the prescription drugs that you said, which would include the marijuana.
Yeah. If we could hit that medical.
I want to talk about you for a second, too,
Okay.
huh? What did you just say?
Oh, if we can hit the marijuana and the medical at some point, that would
I'm
be
going to
great.
do that.
Okay. Those are fun cases. Those are much more winnable than even a regular DUI. It's very hard.
Which one, medical or?
Medical. Marijuanas aren't so much, but prescription drug cases are a lot of fun.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
It's already 4:19. Where does time go?
I know. See how fast it goes, no
Yeah.
matter what I do.
I always thought, how could folks, be on for an hour like Rush Limbaugh? He's on for what, 2
I'm on
hours
for
a day?
2 hours, and I feel like I'm on,
For
and
10 minutes.
I do, always, no matter what I do.
So do they edit this recording, or
Yes.
they just give me the whole recording?
No, we're going to edit it for you. Okay, here we go. So we're back, and we're talking with John Pheubus. He is a criminal defense attorney. We were talking a lot about DUI because a lot of people are going to be drinking. We're going to talk real quickly about water because a lot of people are going to be on their boats this weekend too. So quickly, how they can get a DUI on the water too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can get a DUI in the air if you're operating an airplane, and of course you can get one on a boat or watercraft. So you need to be careful about that. There is, especially on a big weekend like this, saturation enforcement. If you're down at the Salt River, there's a large enforcement contingent down there. They're watching that area like a hawk. So if you're driving to or from the Salt River, do not do it if you've been drinking. If you're operating a boat out on Lake Pleasant or any of the other water spaces around us, be sensible. Have 1 or 2 beers or have a designated operator for your boat.
Now, you do free consultations with people.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I want to give out your phone number. Again, we want you to put it in your phone if you can, 623-847-7117. He's got a ton of information on his website, which is DUI az.com. And I do have my lines open here. He is live here. If you want to call in and tell us a story or talk to us about something, get a little advice right here on the show, you can call in at 602-277-5369.
Carol, I was going to say, too, people can email me right on the website, and I have a little chat function on the website. They don't talk to me on the chat, but I get the transcript, and I'll call them right back.
Okay, so you got all that information. I also want to talk to you a little bit about prescription drugs, because there's a lot of people now that are smoking marijuana. They think that they can, it's okay to drive. And also, they don't realize that they can be taking prescription drugs and also get pulled over. Go ahead.
Oh, gosh, great questions, Carol. Marijuana, look, we're probably headed towards legalization in 2016. It's going to be on the ballot. But right now, when they test your blood, one of two things will show up. There can be active marijuana, which is THC in your blood, and there can be a secondary metabolite in your blood. If you have any active THC in your blood, the Arizona Supreme Court has said that's it. You're guilty of a DUI. They don't have to prove how much of it is in your blood. They don't have to prove that you were impaired by it. If you have 1 nanogram per milliliter, which is very small. A nanogram is very small.
Never even heard of a nanogram. Go ahead.
The law says you can be found guilty of a DUI. So you got to be super careful. Active THC will normally show up in your blood for 3 to 7 hours after consumption. Certainly, if you're eating brownies, it'll be in there for days potentially. Prescription drugs, that is a very hot area in law enforcement. Officers go to specialized training, especially here in the city of Phoenix. The motorcycle officers go to special training called drug recognition school, where they're trained to try to detect people who are impaired by prescription drugs. So if you're in a car accident, the airbag's gone off in your face and you're all discombobulated, and the officer finds a tube of Valium, a prescription for Valium in your car, guess what? He's going to say, well, were you taking prescription drugs? And then all of a sudden, this accident, which may have had nothing whatsoever to do with the fact that you've taken Valium as prescribed for the last 10 years, but the officer's going to say, hey, you're taking Valium, I think you're impaired. And you can get a DUI. If you're impaired by prescription medication, the law says that you can be found guilty of a DUI, and that shocks people. They don't realize that.
I was telling you before you came on that I know somebody who literally had surgery, one of those outpatient situations. They gave him something, and he thought he could drive home. They had told him, don't do that, but he thought he could drive home. Got in a big accident, got a DUI. Well, they called it, I don't know if it was called a DUI or whatever, but and now, look what happened to him. I mean, wow. I mean, it cost thousands of dollars.
Well, in terms of cost, a DUI, the court costs are very high. Your minimum fine if you get convicted of a DUI, of course, the goal was to try to avoid that, but if you get convicted, your minimum fine is $1,500. If you're below an 08, that's the court cost. If you're above a .15, it's $2,800. And if you're above a 2.0, it's $3,200. Your legal fees, for your lawyer, are typically going to run you about $5,000. So, if you see these billboards that say, you get the DUI, it's $10,000, that's about right. Between what it's going to cost you for your lawyer and what the DUI will cost you, you're looking at about $10,000. Now, again, hopefully you get one of those cases where you get out of the actual DUI conviction, and maybe you get it thrown out or you get a reckless driving. But it's a lot of consequences, and you need somebody who knows what they're doing. They're very complicated cases, and that's why you want to make sure when you hire somebody, you talk to them. How many of these have you done? Do you know the judges? Do you know the prosecutors? Will you be handling my case, or is there some associate that I've never seen who's going to be handling my case? When you hire me, I handle your case, and you get my cell phone number, and you can call me. Although if you call me every night at 2 a.m., we're going to have a problem.
And if you call him right now, he's on the air. But so the number to call again, it's 623-847-7117. And I say this all the time, it can happen to anyone, but really, honestly, we know that our sons and daughters all out there that are, once my daughter turned 21, my heart stopped, but she doesn't, luckily for me, that's not her thing. But you know what? There's a lot of people out there that have had that. Usually that's the case, and the parents are listening now. And, it's good to have this information. It's informational. That's what it is. Go ahead.
I was going to say knowledge is power. And, again, nobody is pro-DUI. it's being sensible. You can drink and drive, but you need to be prudent about it. And especially if you're living in Central Phoenix, Uber is, look, if I have to find another thing to do for a living, that's fine. Use Uber, use these other resources. But, if you are in a bad situation, call me. Call somebody who does this.
He does free consultation. Again, that number is 623-847-7117. Going in through and talking about this, and yes, it always comes back to the DUI. We've been talking about all of these things, especially if you're drinking or smoking or taking prescription drugs, if it affects you in any way, now other things start happening. It's a snowball effect, and why I'm bringing that up is because now domestic violence comes in, because a lot of times after, when people are drinking, they start fighting. You don't have to hit somebody necessarily for it to have somebody, they call in the cops. It could be your neighbors are hearing, whatever. But if somebody is called, I believe somebody goes to jail. Am I correct on that?
Domestic violence is a lot worse. If I had a family member and they could be charged with a DUI or domestic violence, I'd take a DUI any day. Domestic violence, if you're convicted of it, you lose your right to bear arms. Some countries like Canada will not let you in. You lose your right to get a fingerprint clearance card, which you need if you're going to work with little kids or older folks in a nursing home. It can have catastrophic consequences. If you are here legally, but you're a foreign national, say you're from south of the border, you've got your green card, you get convicted of domestic violence, that's it. You're done. You're going to be deported, and you'll never be able to become a citizen. It's catastrophic. Great, terrible thing.
Right, and this is the thing, is that all of these things happen to very good people. Bad things happen to good people. I have a friend of mine who got in an argument with her spouse, and she ended up in jail.
If the cops get called in a domestic violence situation, the policy is somebody's going to be taken to jail. And they're booked into the county jail downtown, which if you're booked into downtown here in Maricopa County, Sheriff Joe is going to release your picture on the internet. So for all time, they're going to be able to type in your name, and your mugshot will appear on the internet. Bad news.
What's really bad is because it goes through, all of that goes through this Facebook. If one person sees it, then it flies, it goes viral.
In the internet age, nothing disappears. There's a memory goes on forever.
So, okay, let's talk a little tiny bit more. I want to ask you this. How do you feel then about, and I wrote this down, so we have some time and I want to find out how you feel about it, how you feel about people taking videos then, now that we all have them in our phones, how do you feel about if we have a friend that we can say, videotape me while we're doing this, or whatever, because, whatever. Go ahead.
I think it's absolutely great. I think every department should have officer-worn body cams rolled out uniformly. It's a great safety net for everybody. When I have cases with video, it solves the case 9 times out of 10. And you have a right to record. So if you're being busted for a DUI, your friend can sit there and record it as long as they're not being disruptive to the officer. Now, if the officer says, listen, stop recording, put that away, stop recording, put it away. Don't get in an argument with the officer there in the field. It's just not a good idea, but you have a right to do it.
Here's the thing, guys. It is a very big weekend. It's a very long weekend. We've all know that you've been starting, and now everybody's thinking about where they want to have a drink. Be safe. That's the first thing. Be safe. But for God's sakes, if something happens, write the number down. 623-847-7117. It's DUIAZ.com.